right now I do feel like God has me in a season, right? Has me in a season where I'm growing. There's a lot of things he's teaching me, downloading to me, revealing about me. And in the faith, that is called a wilderness season, where God kind of separates you from people. He's letting you know about something. Let's say there's something that you desire, something that you're looking forward or towards. And in this season, once he gives you that promise, he puts you through a process. That process looks different for different people. And so in this process, God has put me in. I thought it was one way, and he done broke me out of a lot of different things in this process. So for anybody who's going through a process where you feel like you're separated in certain areas of your life, where you feel like God is taking you, he's isolating you, he's teaching you things about yourself, he's revealing you to you, it's called a wilderness. All right. And that wilderness season is to break you, to build you. So for the first, I would say that for the first 6 weeks, and I'm sure there's going to be more that happen. I'm still being broken as we speak. More and more is revealed to you. And when those things are revealed to you, you then make a decision on whether or not you're going to keep those things, give up on the process, or you stick into the process for a promise. Okay. And so wilderness season. All right. And so in this, John says, I'm glad you're continuing this. I've not heard of anyone explain the wilderness this way with the core wounds. Absolutely. This is why I'm talking about this. Okay. So let's get into core wounds. On Sunday, I went to church, and I'm, in there, what praise and worship and things like that. Pastor talks about how a mature Christian, a mature person of faith, is not gimme, gimme, gimme. It's make me. The position of a mature Christian is make me. YouTube user says, I'm going through a process, but I'm trusting the journey. Absolutely. Absolutely. Edna asks a really good question. Thank you, Edna. I love the question. She says, where is the wilderness in the Bible? Wilderness in the Bible is in Genesis. And then we go to Exodus, where they exit Egypt. Okay, so Moses is, I don't know if you've heard of Moses, but Moses in the Bible is a main character. He's got main character energy. Moses was designated by God in his 80s by a burning bush to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. They had been for centuries oppressed, suppressed, and God, after a while, they had stubborn hearts. They decided to say, hey, God, I need you. And God said, you know what? I'm not going to answer you. I'm going to raise up somebody to take you out of Egypt. Right? So he's gotten the authority from God, and the thing about this, y'all, this is what I have to say, because this just came to my spirit. Holy Spirit, please speak through me today, because I'm weak. I need you. The thing about this is that he was prepared for this moment his entire life. Moses was raised Egyptian. All right. His mother let him in. I don't know if you guys know the story, but let him down a river. The Egyptian princess got him out the water and raised him as her own. So he is a Jewish man who was raised Egyptian, right? Understands, can speak the language, knows the customs. He is a unique individual in the Bible. All right. Because at the time Moses was born, there was a mandate to unalive the young boys the young boys that were being born at that time. Okay. So he was literally built for this. The first moment that he has where he sees some type of negative treatment towards his people, he actually goes out of character and unalives a man straight up. Okay. He goes about his life acting like it didn't happen, but shortly thereafter, he's confronted. He says something to some Jewish men, and they say, oh, are you going to take us out like you did that Egyptian soldier? He runs away. He's like, I've been found out. Gotta go. So he leaves, goes into a different place. He lives a whole different life for 40 years. In that time frame, at the end of it, where I believe God felt like, okay, he has You'll see the number 4 and 40 a lot throughout the Bible. Found out that means completion. Okay, 40 days completion. So for those of you guys who are on this Lent or on this journey, 40 days is completion. Jesus was out in the wilderness for 40 days, right? Means completion. 440. You'll see 440 a lot throughout the Bible. Anyway, back to what we're saying. So he's now designated by God, because he was his whole life, he did not know it. And I want to challenge you guys all throughout here. He did not know it. He had no idea. He had no idea that throughout his life he was being prepared. He was being prepared. He was being prepared. And so in this, whether he realized it or not, he was raised to do this. He was born to do this. He was given the heart posture, the story, and everything to be who God used him. So God speaks to him through a burning bush. And that burning bush catches his attention. He's like, okay, I understand. But God, I don't speak very well. I stutter. And he said, well, your brother Aaron will come along with you and you will go to Pharaoh. Okay. So then you find that Pharaoh his heart is hardened, not because Pharaoh's heart was hard, but because God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? God hardened Pharaoh's heart because it says in the Bible, he wanted the people of Israel and the Egyptians to know who the true God is. So some people, y'all might be saying, oh, why are these people's heart? You know, there might be people in your life, their hearts are hard towards you. They have a moment of this and then they have a moment of that. It's back and forth. You don't know what's going on. Sometimes God uses those people to reveal his goodness and his mercy and his strength. You want them to do what you want them to do. And if they did do it according to how that you wanted it to be done, you wouldn't see the power of God. You'd just be like, oh, they're just good people. They're just good people. No, God wants you to know that they were specifically challenging, and I had to do a work to make them softer, to be able to, even if their hearts are still hard towards you, they're going to bless you anyway. That's why it says in Psalms 23, I will prepare a feast for you in the presence of your enemies. Your cup will overflow with oil. That is what that is. Okay. So that's what we have to understand, right? So a lot of times we want our enemies to do what we want them to do. God says, no, I want you to be clear that's an enemy. So when I do something in them, you're clear it was me. I want to get the glory. That's the whole point of the story, is for God to get the glory. Let's go back. Wilderness. So a lot of times with wilderness seasons and wilderness moments, you're going to have a situation where, of course, the wilderness is it's a season where you're being isolated by God. It's a season where you're being isolated by God. Because at the end of the day, when God calls us to something, there is going to be opposition. Most people think that because there's challenges in the wilderness, that means it's not where you're supposed to be. No. The fact that there's challenges in the wilderness that means you're exactly where you need to be, right? So with this being said, we go through this process. The Israelites are then set free after 10 plagues are set over Egypt. They go into the Red Sea is parted. They have seen the hand of God mightily, and they're now been given a promise, which is a promised land, and they're now being brought into the wilderness. They're being brought into the wilderness. Okay. In this season, they are stripped away from everything that makes them feel comfortable. Right? They don't have a consistent source of food. They don't have a consistent source. They don't have a consistent source of anything. And they have to be dependent upon God. And that was because for years and years and years, centuries and centuries, they were not doing that. So now that they're torn away from everything that makes them feel comfortable, God is now trying to teach them to depend on him, that he is the provider. God starts with his hand and he wants them to seek his face. That's how God usually That's how God usually moves. He starts with his hand, and then he asks you to seek his face, right? So, wilderness season. Some of you guys are dealing with constant doubt, discouragement. There's things that are happening in your world and in your life you cannot understand, opposition that just doesn't make sense. And you're feeling isolated, and you feel like God is calling you to him. You don't really know how to begin. You don't know how to start. That's part of the reason for the wilderness. A lot of times, people, they want to be promoted without process. They want to be promoted without they want to get to the next level, the promotion, this, that in life without process. Process has to occur. You cannot fight process. And so in this wilderness season, part of the process, which is the point of this live, is for you to know, or for you to understand that there are wounds that you're dealing with, right? There are wounds that we're dealing with that we've been nursing a lot of times from childhood that are coming up in our day-to-day life, right? So when you're dealing with a situation where you're dealing with betrayal, you're dealing with rejection, you're dealing with loss, you're dealing with grief, you're dealing with, I have one of my main ones is injustice. People that come from, very strict parents or very strict households have a thing with injustice. They're very big about not being misled. They have a big thing about not being, what was the other one? They don't like being misled. And they really want things to be fair. And they're not going to put themselves, they're perfectionists. They're not going to put themselves out there. They don't like being vulnerable. That's the core wound of injustice, right? You're not very flexible. You're very rigid. And so the work that's done in the wilderness season, a lot of times, is breaking you out of one version of having faith in God into another version of having faith in God. Okay? Because the first version of the faith in God is, I want. Right? That's the first version. The first version, as you go into the wilderness, is you're set on the promise. You're set on, I want the house. I want the promotion. I want the marriage. I want this. I want that. You're on the I want. In the wilderness season, God is breaking you out of that. He's now saying, I want you to be so dependent on me that the promise doesn't even matter. That I want you to value the gift giver more than the gift. Most Christians don't break out of that. They stay in a place of, I want gifts. Gimme. God says, no, I'm trying to break you from being a child to being an adult. I'm trying to break you from having milk to really having meat and potatoes. That's the point of the wilderness. The wilderness is to really test you, to get you to a more mature level of faith, to be able to handle what's coming with it. Okay? Because on the other side of the promotion, there's going to be a level that you are going to reach or have to reach that is going to require more from you. And you can't give up. Because here's the thing. This is the lie that the world tells us. The world tells us, oh, you're not going to get out of promise. God is already, whatever promises God has on your life, it's always going to happen. Doesn't matter, blah, 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 blah. We see in the story with the Israelites that that's not true. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you guys. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, y'all. Let's not just be every once in a while. Let's become family, okay? Friends that are family, okay? Join my family today.